So let's have a look at how we mount these microphones onto the kit, because this is actually the beauty of the grid system, is that you don't require any microphone stands or any complex arrangements. They all just clip simply onto your drums. So come and check it out. Now let's have a look first at the triple-headed kick drum mic. Now you'll notice this has three, I'll take this off. It has three microphone heads, and what this does is it creates a much larger membrane, but still with the definition of a single membrane. It's a bit like a quad box for a bass player or guitarist. It gives you a bigger speaker, but still with the movement of a small speaker. So you can see how simple this is to put on. It just clips over the edge like that and plugs in, and you're basically ready to rock and roll with that one. Now if we go up here, you see the tom mics are very similar. Again, they just clip on. Straight XLR fittings like that. This slides up and down the neck depending on how long or short you want it. Depends how your playing is. If you're a fairly accurate player, you can probably leave them a little bit longer, because there's no danger of hitting them, and point that head right down at the sweet spot in the center, because that's where you want to focus on. Now if you find that you keep hitting it when you're playing, you may have to shorten that back a bit and kind of point it a bit from the side. Obviously the best sound is usually around about there. On the side here, you can see we've got the same microphone again. This is a dynamic microphone pointing at the crash cymbal. So what we've done there is basically use the same tom and snare mic, but we've just turned this around rather than pointing that way. We are now pointing it at the crash cymbal. And we've done the same with the ride cymbal over here. We've just taken the same tom and snare mic and just pointed it towards here. It gives us that little bit more flexibility if you want to really pick out that cymbal in the mix. The snare, we simply used a dynamic again, same as all the other mics. There's no snare, no microphone underneath the snare in this case. You could do that if you want to. There's absolutely no problem with that. Same microphone will clip underneath, no problems at all. And we also have the hi-hat microphone. Now this is quite interesting. This has a different fitting. But again, very simple to use. It's basically, if you look at that here, it comes up and it has like a gooseneck, I suppose, that then points perfectly onto the hi-hat, and it has this wedge system that clips in there. So as we put that around the shaft of the hi-hat here, we simply squeeze that wedge in, give it a bit of a pinch, and there it sits. And we're ready to record or ready to perform live. Oh, and I want to show you what we use for overhead microphones in this mix. This is another revolutionary product. This uses an electret head, which is a capacitor head, condenser mic, and they need power. So they are powered through phantom power on the desk. And again, they simply click on to your tom mics and plug in to an XLR. Straightforward XLR, there's nothing funny about this. Straightforward XLR plug goes into your desk with the phantom power, and it basically points to this side of the kit. So that is picking up this side of the kit. Then I have another one over here on the other tom that comes up here, and that's picking up that side of the kit. So they work as your overheads. Instead of having big microphone stands or mounting them in the ceiling like I have here, you don't need to do that. You can just put them on your toms, and you got that stereo separation, and also you get the overall kit mix. So with this setup, you pretty much got it all covered. There's nothing which you're missing out on here. Okay, hi. So we are now in the sound room, and we're having a look at the recording we just did on the drums. And you can see here we have the 8 tracks on Logic here. We got the kick, the snare, the tom, we got the hats, the crash cymbal, the ride cymbal, and the 2 overheads down the bottom there. At this point we haven't really done anything to the tracks. If you look over here, you'll see we've done a little bit of EQing on some of these, especially the cymbals. So let's look at the ride, for instance. You can see we've taken a little bit of the bass out here from 200 down, and then we cut the bass off at about 50. And a slight boost, just a 5 decibel boost at around about 6,400, just so it doesn't get too muddy. So let's have a bit of a listen here. So this is everything together. Obviously on the camera microphone it's not going to be top sound, but you'll get the idea. So I'm going to single out the kick. Now this is kick only here, in a second. I don't know if you can hear that on the camera, but that is pretty fat. And if we look at the, hang on, that's the right. So this is the kick drum here. You'll see the frequencies go from below 20 right up to 100 here, and then it tapers off towards the top. But there's still heaps of sound in here if you want a real clunk in there. But most of it lives down here, which is where you want it. Now isolation is extremely good. If you listen to the snare here, mainly getting the snare on the track. There's always a little bit of hi-hat, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Tom, there's the hat track, there's hats on their own, which of course we're not hearing now at all. I'll take it back a bit. So you can hear the hats there on their own track. Again, fairly good isolation. There's not a lot of other things on that track. The crash, so we're coming up to crash here. You can hear there. Ride cymbal. Nice and clean. And then we have the two overheads that sit at the front of the kit. They just kind of capture the space to give it more airiness. And again, in the on the overheads, I've taken a lot of the bass out because it's not really necessary in the overheads. We could probably go back to there and then drop that a little bit, so we're still retaining a little bit of sound down there, but nothing that interferes with the rest of the mix. So let's do that with the other one as well. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll bring the cutoff down to about 50, and then we'll just drop the shelf from about there down. And that just cleans up the mix. It gives you the top air without making mud. Okay, so you can hear the actual final mix when you see the video of Alex playing. Stop that. So the video of the final mix, I will put this mix onto the video and merge them together, so you'll hear the real thing. Oh yeah. Make sure that when you listen to the video that you either wear headphones or you play it through some decent monitors, because you really won't be able to tell what these microphones sound like on your iPhone or iPad unless you've got some other device plugged into it. Thanks for taking the time to watching this video, and catch you at the website. Cheers.